All right, we have our last 3 double crochets. Now it's time to jump over this last cluster from the previous row. Go ahead and chain 1. And then we are going to do a slip stitch right between that first chain 3 that we did and that first double crochet that we did. So if you need to, you can kind of spread things apart, pull it apart, don't be scared, and put it right in there. Yarn over and pull through both of the loops that are on your hook. Now, if you want to keep going with your double crochets and just making it larger, go for it. Have so much fun because it's really fun to watch it grow. But you just repeat the same thing over and over again. So if you are a kind of person who wants to keep going, just remember that every time that you get into a corner, you are going to be doing a total of 6 double crochets with a chain 3 in the center of them, okay? And then anytime that you have to jump over a cluster of double crochets at all, like anytime, you always do a chain 1 first, and then you'll be doing 3 double crochets in each of those chain 1 spaces. Now, if you are done and you're like, no, I'm finished, I'm gonna start a new one, great. Let's go ahead and cut your yarn. Remember to leave a somewhat long tail. And now we're going to fasten off. So go ahead and yarn over and pull through that loop that's on your hook and pull it all the way through. Pull that new tail nice and tight. And your amazing little granny square is all finished. Amazing, it looks so cute. Now, I'm going to show you how to secure your tails and how to weave in your ends so that everything looks nice and neat. Now, I do recommend doing this right as soon as you are done with each square. And the reason why is because it can be very overwhelming and daunting to have, let's just example, 20 squares. Say I have 20 squares and now I have to hide all of this. I gotta hide it. I have to make it look nice. So try to do that. You finish a square, hide the tails. Finish a square, hide the tails. And it's just a little less overwhelming and you might be a little bit more likely to finish your project knowing you don't have to deal with this little bit of a mess at the end. Okay, with that being said, go ahead and turn your granny square over so that you can see all of the tails. If your tails, if some of them are on the front and some of them are on the back, you can use your crochet hook to kind of just pull them through so that they are all on the back. So what I like to do is find the colors that match. So I've got my pinks here. And what I'm going to do is tie a little double knot with each color. So I'll have a pink knot, a yellow knot, and a purple knot. So let's go ahead and tie a nice little double knot. As you do this, don't pull too tight. If you pull too tight, your project will cinch in on itself like this, and it's not going to look as square as you want it to. So be gentle. A nice loose double knot. Just like that. I say that and then I went and pulled it really tight. Okay. Now I've got my pink one ready. I'm going to do my purples next. And do a double knot again. And it's just a basic double knot, just like you would do when you tie your shoes. Pull it like that. You don't want to pull it too tight though, so keep that in mind. So there's my purple double knot. And then I'm going to do one more with my yellows. Now the double knot is like, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. I just find that it really secures the granny square so that I for sure know it's not going to ever come unraveled because I get a little paranoid and I also just really like to use them when I make them. So I have all my little double knots. Now you want to grab your darning needle and we're going to start hiding the tails. And hiding the tails is really easy. It's the same as the other projects that we have covered. So you're just going to be weaving your yarn in and around the color that matches the tails. So my yellows will be woven in with the yellow, purple will be with purple, and so on. So just keep that in mind, and that's going to give it a nice cohesive look. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in my tails. There's no right or wrong way to do the weaving either. You can kind of just do what feels right for you. I always just kind of go in one direction and then back through the other one, or back through in the opposite direction. So that way I just know that they're really nice and secure, and I most likely don't have to worry about anything coming undone. But after you weave them back and forth, then you will cut your yarn. And we're going to do that for every color. So I'm going to go ahead and finish weaving in my tails. And then when I am finished, I will show you how to piece your granny squares together so that you actually could make a blanket or a bag or a hat or whatever your little heart desires. Okay, so we have all of our tails nice and hidden and woven in, and it looks amazing. So now we want to learn how to piece your granny squares together so that you can actually make something out of them. So I'm going to set this one to the side and then bring out my little samples here. So you want to get a darning needle and some yarn. If your project is going to be large, make sure that you break off enough yarn to cover your project. But go ahead and thread your darning needle. Okay. Now, when we are piecing our granny squares together, you want the front side to touch each other. Okay, so find the side that has your knots and where we wove everything in, and have those on the outside. So get your pieces and just put them right together, just like this. And when you do that, you can see all of the stitches line up nice and neat. And now we are going to grab our darning needle. This is super easy to do. It can be a little bit tedious. It's time consuming, but just turn on a show and enjoy the process. But what we want to do is go through the inside stitches. So the back loops, let me see. So when you look at it this way, our projects have a front loop and a back loop. I'll show that up a little bit more. We have the front loop and the back loop. Okay, we are going to go through the back loop on the bottom part of the square and the front loop on the top one. So we have this would be our back loop, this would be our front loop. We want to go through the front one on here. So go ahead and insert your hook first into the corner back loop of that stitch. Okay, and now in this corner on your second square, you want to go through the front loop, just like that, and then pull that through. As you pull it through, make sure you leave a tail that's long enough for sewing at the end. Okay, so we're going to just repeat that over and over again. We're going to go through the back loop on the bottom granny square right here, and then we're going to go through the front loop of the top square and then pull it through. And we're going to just repeat that over and over again. So now we're going to go back into that back loop on the bottom and the front loop on the top and pull it through. If your tail actually wants to do this, let it, because you can just kill two birds with one stone and weave this in at the same time that you are sewing your project together. So I actually think I might do that. I just don't want it to be in your way. All right, so go ahead and insert your hook back into the next back loop and the top front loop and pull it through. We're just gonna I'm just gonna bring that tail along with me so I don't have to do it again. All right, and now we're gonna do the same thing. So go back down to the bottom back loop, the top front loop. And you wanna make sure that you're doing them so that the stitches are lined up, and that way you won't end up with an odd amount of stitches when you get to the end. So make sure that you have everything lined up nice and neat. Just hold it together and then you can sew them together. All right, and we're just gonna keep repeating this until we get to the end. So when you get to the corners, you do want to make sure that you are inserting your darning needle in the same loops as the rest of the stitches. And that is going to make it so that that seam is not as noticeable from the outside. Okay. Just slide this way. Okay, so this is what it will look like. And then when you open it up, it's going to look like that. So it has a really nice finished look. If you like the idea of having a visible seam, just use a color that does not match the border color. I like to make my granny squares like this, where it's like funky colors in the center, and then I like to have a border just to kind of make it all kind of cohesive and look nice together, but it's a personal preference. So you do what you think looks the best. But yeah, that's how you do granny squares. That's how you sew them together. They're so much fun. They're so versatile. You can just piece them together and just make whatever you feel like making. Yeah, they're great. I hope that you enjoyed this, and good luck with your granny squares. Thanks.